This is a Dauntless Media Collective podcast. Visit dauntless.fm for more content.
But sometimes you feel like there's no place. There's no place in the end. You are the odd person out. There's no space to fit you in there. And feeling like, oh, that's where I am. Like I can locate myself through that exact Christmas story. So for maybe anyone listening who's also feeling like there's no space for them among evangelical Christmas stuff, maybe that piece of the story can still see you and make you feel seen.
A huge part of Christmas for so many people is without Jesus, I can totally do Christmas and not have Jesus, and that's fine because I did it for my whole life exclusively Jesusing. So let's try it the other way.
I'm Gail.
I'm Nate.
And this is Full Mutuality. On today's episode, it's a Christmas episode.
Yay.
Yay.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Oh, that most wonderful time of the year where we're all running around to different places, and holidays can be full of so much emotion and often joy, happiness, excitement, but also often less talked about is the anxiety, the stress of the holidays, and if you're listening to our podcast, probably the deconstruction of your faith related to how that ties into the holidays. So we wanted to have a conversation. We decided to invite a bunch of our friends in, and so that's what we've done. I won't preamble on this too long because we got a long conversation ahead, but on our podcast, we're going to have Jessica Goforth and
Zach Malm.
Yeah.
Jessica is the host of the Leaving the Village podcast, so go check out her stuff. We'll put a link to it in the description. And Zach Malm is the co-host of the Veterans of Culture Wars podcast. And again, we'll put links to all of their stuff in the show notes. You can go check out their material. Zach is also a musician who has written quite a lot of Christmas music, and you can check out his stuff. We'll obviously, again, link to all of it in the show notes. But without further ado, here's our conversation with Jessica and Zach.
I was making him listen to the one that was "What Does Christmas Mean to You?"
Yeah. So that would have been the most recent. Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. The most recent was one I did with my kid. Yeah, that one was like the first one I did after like knowing for a fact that I wasn't a Christian anymore. And yeah, it had that line where I said, what does I say? I'm not a big lyrics guy, but I do try to be true. Yeah, I want them to be meaningful to me, but I hate reciting them. I've never just like stated a lyric, but I said, Christmas has been stuck to me like glue, but Santa never knows what we've been through. And we're on the other side of certain truth. So tell me, what does Christmas mean to you? And normally I don't try to do like just single syllable rhymes all the time, but in that one I specifically was going for that. But yeah, I remember being terrified releasing that, knowing like my family, my mom, my in-laws would hear it. And that line, "We're on the other side of certain truth," I felt like was like giving it all away, like letting them know that I left the team. But they didn't figure it out. So
I think that was an interesting song. Okay, that's all they got. Excellent.
Yeah,
I definitely
why isn't
felt...
it happier? That's what I did.
That's so
get.
funny.
It was giving bit of Sufjan Stevens, some of that energy there.
Sure.
I don't know if you would consider that a compliment or a... Yeah. I enjoy Sufjan Stevens. I enjoy Kishibashi. So it was definitely giving me some of that.
Sure. Yeah. I haven't really listened to Sufjan in quite a while. I have some friends that were like in his band, and I was thinking the other day, I was like I think sort of like in Paid with a Lion terms, having gone from being a Secret of the Easy Yoke Christian to a hard to be ex-evangelical, I feel like my journey with Sufjan Christmas music is, I used to feel like I connected more with Sister Winter, and now it's Christmas Unicorn. The one that's like 17 minutes long and eventually just becomes Joy Division level tear us apart. It's very extravagant and wonderful.
Yeah.
So I don't, my stuff doesn't sound like that.
No, more like Christmas in the Room kind of vibes, I think.
Yeah. The Tommy Wiseau film, The Room.
Yeah. No, the Sufjan Stevens song "Christmas in the Room," I think is the title of it, or something like that.
I can't recall that one. He's had so many Christmas albums.
Yeah, he has had a lot of Christmas albums.
Because the first thing was like, hey, here's a 5-disc set of Christmas stuff that I've been just privately making and sending to friends. But here you go, world. Here's 100 new Christmas songs. Have at it. And I have that CD set for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I started making Christmas stuff like a dozen years ago. Had some friends in like college years that they started putting out Christmas records, and did a lot of them, started doing it like every year, and people that like are really into left of center Christmas music or like familiar with some of that stuff. And I was attracted to the idea of like a format that I could play with, like ready-made themes to build on. And then so I did several things where I'd write a few, I'd do some covers, and then really the big change was recording the album I did called The Darkest Time of Year, which was recorded throughout 2017. So in the traumatized wake of the 2016 election, just figuring out like what any of this stuff, if I hold on to these beliefs, like as it got closer to Christmas, like the connection between Trump Christianity and my Christianity just felt weirder and weirder, and I wasn't feeling the Christmas spirit. I remember like trying to write songs for it and talking with some friends. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on this Christmas album. It was like the summer. And all the songs just turn out like really depressing. And like, I don't know, keep trying. But like, I don't know, like the last song on the album was the last song I wrote. And that was like after my family canceled that Thanksgiving because we fought about Trump too much. And so that was the song that more like explicitly deals with where I was at there, where I'm saying I haven't felt the Christmas spirit yet. I'm stuck here in the year that never ends. I don't believe they'll make it great again, but I do believe we'll make it through this mess. And I don't know of any other like MAGA focused Christmas songs. But it was quite a journey for me putting those ideas on there. And then it ends with, I felt like I was like singing it to my parents at that point, singing at the end and said, if nothing else, we still have Christmas. If nothing else, we still have Jesus. And even if the meaning changes, if nothing else, we still have Christmas. And I liked that even if the meaning changes line, it's kind of unclear if it's referring to the meaning of Christmas or the meaning of Jesus. And it wasn't too much longer before we didn't still have Jesus. The meaning had changed significantly, but we do still have Christmas. I still host it.
Still have Christmas. And I think like that was those were my thoughts when I was like, I want to do an episode on Christmas, and I want to do an episode on Christmas for those who are going through a faith transition. And it's funny, your album title or the darkest time of year as a concept, and you talking about the transition from, Trump being elected in 2016 and how that influenced family and faith and the unraveling. And I think there's a whole new group of people that are starting in that journey, maybe who were too young for that or who just were not mature enough to start grappling with those issues, who are coming to that point. Yeah. Situations that unravel in life and the dominoes that align to get you there. And then Trump ends up, it almost feels a little bit like a repeat, just to a different group of people. But I guess that's the fortunate thing, is there are people who have gone through this before that could maybe speak some sense of not being alone into that moment of trying to discover Christmas and not feeling the joy and feeling like the faith shift that could be so startling, or a lack of faith, or like having your faith pulled out from under you. And so basically I saw, we were chatting with our friend Jessica. And I should just do the introductions.
Yeah. Who are we?
Jessica.
Who are we? I mean, I was thinking we'd probably just do like a preamble again.
We will probably preamble this and then cut this part out.
And introduce you all in the preamble. But why don't we just really quickly say our names and then...
Yeah. I'm Zach. I'm new here at Shiz University.
We were having a whole wicked conversation before this.
Yes. I co-host the podcast Veterans of Culture Wars. I was on with Nate and Gail a couple of years ago talking about how I set Mark Driscoll's career slightly off.
You helped destroy Mars Hill is how you intro in your Veterans of Culture War.
Mars Hill's gone, but Mark's doing just fine.
Clearly,
which is the ultimate bummer of it all. But that was a thing that I was involved with destroying, and I've been making Christmas music for quite a while and going through a faith transition in the midst of that, which sort of came through in the songs I've written and how I think about Christmas now. So,
Yeah. And I'm Jessica Goforth. I am the host of Leaving the Village podcast. And Gail and Nate are my very dear friends who I just love being invited into these conversations because it's so much fun.
And that's so picking off where I think when we talked about Wicked last time together, at the end of that, we stopped recording and the conversation came up and you were like, Christmas this year is just, it's just so, there's just so much emotion behind what you just expressing of how much it weighed on you this year, or it just felt like intense. And then that got me thinking, we haven't done an episode on the holidays that's not just a perky holiday. I mean, I don't think we've ever done a perky holiday episode, but I thought I like going into the dark stuff. I like going into the emotional side of things. And I think the holidays can be such a trigger for the heavier things, for the shifts that go on in life. Yeah. And those sometimes are the pieces we don't talk about and that people need to feel like they're not alone in. So that's, from what you said, Jessica, and then actually I think I came across you, Zach, quoting that line from your song, "What Does Christmas Mean to You?" And you said this was the start of your deconstruction and you talking out loud about it in relation with Christmas. And those two pieces connected in my head. I'm like, we need to do an episode. I'll see if I could drag Zach into it and Jessica into it. And then we can have a conversation about, and considering that all of us have been on this journey for a little while too, I thought it would be interesting to talk about what it's like for us now. And even, I know before I got on this call, I went through my history to see different times I've talked about Christmas on my page, Full Mutuality, just looking through my own faith shift and how that came out very differently in different years and what hit me hard, just to refresh myself, because every year it's different things that kind of how I feel about things. So I wanted to throw it out. Maybe we could start off with, I'd love to hear, I know you've kind of touched on this already, Zach, for you, but you were talking about 2016 being a big shift for you, and maybe 2017, am I accurate in that, being where you kind of were, I don't think the Jesus thing is still intact anymore. Is that accurate to where you were at and where your things started to shift for you?
I wasn't at that place until a little later, 2018, 2019. My dad died in mid 2018, and that plus Trump was kind of the two main catalysts. So I think I was done with Jesus early to mid 2019.
Okay.
2018 was just like my dad dying just like broke my brain. I couldn't process deconstruction things. I was just trying to deal with the grief of that. But once I was able to work through enough of that, there was a lot of just like I can't keep like showing up on Sundays and playing music. And at least I didn't, like, at that point I wasn't like singing. I was just like in the band, and like, because a lot of it was like I can't sing these words. But
yeah, Zach, I don't know if you know, but my son passed away when he was 15 months old, about 10, 11, almost 12 years ago. And none of those songs landed the same.
Yeah.
Ever again.
Yeah.
And I kept running out and just ended up sitting in the parking lot, absolutely having massive panic attacks. Couldn't take it.
I've heard from so many people that have had panic attacks at church, and for folks that have had an undisturbed faith life, they don't. I think most of them would never even think that that's a possible response to being in church. Like, it's the ultimate just cozy blanket place. It's where I go to talk to people once a week and hear about Jesus, and everything's all good, and I'll go out to the lobby and get a coffee and blah blah blah. And how could anybody have this intense bodily reaction to this wonderful place? It's kind of wild to hear how common that is.
Yeah. That's good for people who are on the other side, where they have had, where maybe at one point it was the cozy blanket and everyone they know is still in that phase, but then they've had the other side of it and they're like, does anyone else get what that is on this side of things? Yeah. And maybe feel like they're alone in that. And what you're saying, Zach, I think might be reassuring to a lot of people to be like, no, you're really not the only person who has had that experience. There's a lot of people who've had anxiety related to church. I think on my end, it's similar to yours in different ways. 2018 was the end of my 20-year marriage. And that was a grief, a big grief of sorts. Not a death of an actual person, although I did lose my dad in 2014. And that was, losing a dad is, it's a lot.
It's an ambiguous loss.
Yeah. Yeah, and then a divorce it's one of those, after 20 years it's very significant to your high school person. And I think that started to definitely tug on my whole faith construct, because in the evangelical world there was so much emphasis on making that work, especially father of your kids, and just the concept that God would want to intervene in that, and the personal God concept. So
ultimately, God wants your marriage to be forever. So if there are issues, they can be worked through with enough faith. They can,
and prayer. God is like, he answers prayer and faith, right? So you lean in. I leaned in. I remember just worshiping all the time. I wasn't a big music person. I know some people were. I'm probably talking to the worship leaders all around me right now in their churches. That was not me.
Honestly, I hated most worship music my whole life.
Right. You're the alternative music guy.
I liked it at Mars Hill. Being in a band there, we wrote our songs. We didn't. Right. I had no awareness of what was popular on the CCM charts.
I was just like the people who are like, oh, they're doing those weird drama skits and interpretive dance. Why did they have to do that? Why can't they go back to the music? I was one of those people who was like, please, can we just cut the music side of things and put something different for those of us who are not always music? I don't want to hear 10 songs. Otherwise, I'll just stay in my car and listen to 10 songs if that's what I want to do.
3 songs repeated 10 times.
That's right.
That's what I was about to say, Nate.
That is very common in church, especially if you grew up Pentecostal.
For 17 minutes solid that has 3 sentences.
Yeah.
For the
And that
whole
same
song.
chord progression played on pads while the pastor was preaching,
Right.
just in the background.
3 sentences.
You know,
That's crazy. It's one sentence with one word switched out.
Yes, repeated
different,
1,000 times. Yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Righteousness,
I misspoke.
righteousness is
I've
what I
been
long
out
for.
too long.
Holiness,
Holy,
holiness is what
holy.
I long for. You know?
Holy.
Sorry, everyone listening who's right now having traumatic flashbacks. Our
people are
apologies.
twitching. They're like, you
They're
know,
like, stop it, guys. Stop it.
whatever. We had an episode with Maggie where we actually played some clips of
You guys invented your own, like, what was it? Creation Fest or whatever? Like your own music
our
festival?
our own Christian music festival.
That was terrible.
Oh my goodness. Well, I got
Anyway.
lucky because when I was leading worship, we were in Texas. And so we were doing this whole like bluegrassy thing. So it was much more straight, like the actual songs and with a lot of lyrics, and everybody got really into it. And there was a lot of clapping and stamping your feet. And like, it wasn't as touchy feely. So
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I got
Vineyard and
really
Foursquare, it was very emotional, very hands raised.
Yeah.
I couldn't raise my hands ever.
After that phase came next. I was done with worship leading at that point when that really hit.
Yeah.
And I remember going to church for the first time at a church that does that, and I was like, "What is happening right now?
I'll tell you, and to bring this to Christmas,
Fuck is happening?"
my favorite experience leading worship at an Acts 29 church was when I got to do just before Christmas, and I just decided we weren't going to play anything. We were just going to sing Christmas carols together, just voices, no instruments. And so I just picked out some of my favorites, and we just put up the lyrics, and I started it out to give everybody
That's so
the key.
beautiful.
And then it was just the room, just everybody singing together.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
beautiful.
was fantastic. And that is the sort of thing that would move
I
me
do
today.
miss that.
That
miss
sounds
that.
so Acts 29.
I don't know. It was so me.
Oh man.
There's some fun in that.
Yeah, no. And one thing, like I came out of an Acts 29 church as well, and we did all sorts of fun things to experiment because, it wasn't like we had, we were being, receiving a mandate from Sydney, Australia, telling us how we were supposed to be outlining our services.
Oh yeah.
So we could do whatever we wanted. We, converted the room into like this, everybody sat facing the band in the middle of the room and bring out whatever random instruments. We're like 20 minutes from New York City and there's a mandolin on stage. Cool. That's fun. But yeah, I think for me, there were different points. Like one of the things that I've mentioned both here and in other places, my sort of deconstruction journey took place over many, many years as I was taking different steps out of some environments and into different environments. And, Christmas, when I was growing up in the fundamentalist world, it didn't have that kind of magic. It was very strictly about, we are only commemorating the birth of Jesus. And it was all about that in its entirety. The gift-giving tradition was only because we are acquiescing to some aspects of the culture that aren't completely and utterly tainted.
Your fundy churches didn't do any production stuff around Christmas?
No, they did, but it was always...
because that's the thing is like, this is what's so hard for me is that my family and my churches and the churches I was in made that magic. It felt like pure and utter magic. So it was the best worship experience you've ever had, combined with the candles and the chili and the jackets and this cozy and this like warmth of all the people coming. Like the churches were packed full more than normal, and it was like so much joy and beauty and the baby Jesus and the nativities, with the whoever was the newest mom with her baby. And
of course.
And I remember when I had my first baby at 19, I was Mary and I had my baby And he was asleep, and I come up on stage, and he's like out like a light. He's like 4 months or something. And then he wakes
how you know
up
God is
as
real.
everybody starts singing, and he just reaches up and touched my face. Oh, there was not a dry eye in that building. Not a single dry eye. Like, he just was like, Mommy.
Aw. I think
So
I think I
those kinds of
developed
things, like,
Yeah, I think I developed a bit of cynicism over the years.
I didn't.
That like
It's just-
part of it was those productions.
You were too involved.
Yeah, I was very involved
Yeah.
in the
The
music.
magic was gone.
Yeah, and I was in all of the rehearsals doing music, and I constantly wanted to, act. It was something that I just always wanted to do. And I got to do some in school, but in church never could. There was never anything for me. And looking back, I'm wondering how much of that had to do with the fact that I wasn't white. I'm still not white, which is actually even better now than it was back then. But I think I eventually got jaded. And then there was this circumstance that I still to this day get really like bothered about, even more so now than I did back then, actually. But my dad was cast as one of the wise men in a Christmas cantata. My dad can't act, and he didn't really want to, but they insisted. The director was super insistent on having him
Because
act,
wise men
and so
came from the East.
exactly. And what
where that was going.
And
Sorry.
and what they had
I
him
jumped ahead in
do.
your story.
So he was struggling to memorize all of the lines, and so what they ended up doing was having him recite a few of the lines, and then he would just pray in Japanese. They just had him up on stage praying in Japanese, and I always felt like that's weird because me, the young Bible nerd in high school, was like, but that's not accurate to the story in the Bible. They weren't coming from Japan. there would have been no way for them to reach
Because Japan is an island.
the Palestine.
Right.
I mean, it could
On
be
camels?
worse.
They
I
came on camels.
I firmly recall seeing one performance
Flying camels.
at a church as a kid where one of the wise men was just a white guy doing an Apu accent. Like he literally was just doing Apu.
Of course.
I remember lines from it to this day. I knew the guy. He used to rent a room in our house. But I have a little bit of both here. So Nate, I also had that experience of we don't do the jolly, we don't do the goofy things about Christmas time. It is the reverent Christmas, and we don't do Santa. I remember asking my parents when I was like 8 or something, like, how come we never talk about Santa? And like, oh yeah, they invented Santa so they could remove Jesus. But Santa just didn't get brought up. I was aware that he was out there in the cultural lexicon. I was not aware of the practice of writing a letter to Santa or going to the mall and getting your picture with Santa or any of that stuff. It just didn't exist in our family.
Zach, did they bring up that Santa and Satan have the same letters and that they're both red? Did you hear that part?
I
No.
didn't hear that part, but my parents'
Kind
business,
of an evangelical church were you in? Come on.
the kind of evangelical church that performed a Christmas kids musical, and my parents' business supplied those musicals for
GT and the Halo Express?
absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely did that
I'm
one.
more of a Kathy Hill
my
guy,
gosh, I
so
forgot that one.
Wise Guys and Starry Skies, Dr. Newhart's Christmas Cure, Don't Be Afraid Brigade.
Salty in the Singing Songbook?
Well, that wasn't a Christmas one, and that wasn't by
That's not
Kathy
Christmas.
Hill. That's
Okay.
by the
What's the
Retinos.
Christmas one that we did? Oh, shoot. It was
I guess we like Sheep
so
isn't the
unfamiliar with
Christmas
all of
one.
this. I got Patch the Pirate. That's what
I
we
don't know
got.
what that's
yeah.
about, but I would act in these things, and every single one of these has the same formula because kids are going to be actors. There's always a group of kids, and there's one kid from a broken home that's
Right.
what's the big deal about Christmas anyway? I mean, presents are cool, but that's it. And wait a minute.
Yes. Oh, that's every
Haven't you
script.
ever heard about Jesus? Jesus? I don't know about that. I'm all about the presents. Who needs Jesus?
Oh wow!
That's
yes.
every script. We had that script
yeah,
too.
every single
You're
one.
like, our Fundy church didn't have GT, but I remember these plays in Fundy.
yeah, no, it's the same thing every
The one
time.
I remember doing was this like old janitor that was like had lost his family, and so he was all crotchety, and all the toys come to life and like tell him the real meaning of Christmas.
Oh, that
Every
sounds,
single one has a song about the real meaning of Christmas. I'll tell you
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Although toys coming to life, that would never have flown in my church. That's
It was
that
very-
sounds, that sounds like the
very
toys
wholesome.
were demon
Yeah,
possessed.
that
No,
sounds...
they're telling the real story.
Yeah,
They're
see-
trying to explain that they are gifts because they're honoring the real gift, which is Jesus.
See, that sounds very evangelical to me. That sounds like, I don't know, maybe just the way I'm
It wasn't
hearing
quite as
it.
fundy for you.
Yeah, that wouldn't have flown in the Fundy circles because toys coming to life. That's like
Too much
already
imagination
right
for the
there.
Fundies.
Exactly.
I need
Like-
to find it because it was we had like the cassette tape for years, and I remember listening to it, and I knew all the songs, and there was a solo in there by one of the toys. Oh, I wanted that solo so bad, and I got it, and I was
Nice.
it was like made my Christmas that year. I was like 12 or something.
So your parents, sorry, Zach, your parents distributed the music. Were you ever in any of the plays yourself?
yeah,
Did
yeah.
you ever act in? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was in the Don't Be Afraid Brigade. I was in Go Go Jonah, which was not a Christmas one. And I got to be the host of the Bible Tells Me So show, Richard Awesome.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Also written by Kathy Hill. She's been a dream guest of the podcast, but I also think if she listened to any of the podcasts, she would refuse to come on.
You're like, why do you want me on this podcast again? This doesn't really fit together.
Yeah, and
Like, it's childhood nostalgia. That's what this is about.
And when it comes to Salty's fine. Colby the computer was so
yes,
much
I remember
better.
Colby. Yes,
I met Colby.
Absolutely.
I have a picture with Colby when I was
Oh my
like 10.
goodness.
Big moment for me. Colby performed at my parents' annual worship conference that they would put on through their business, like take over a ballroom at the Red Lion Hotel in Bellevue, and I'd help set it up and do all that. They had Stephen Curtis Chapman perform there before he was huge.
Wow.
La 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 la, live out loud.
But
Oh, Stephen Curtis Chapman gets stuck in my head. It's like the worst because it's never getting out. Like, it's just too catchy.
Yeah, his music is very
he
catchy.
is
Too
not
catchy.
my favorite voice actor
I can't
to have
imagine.
played Baloo.
Wait, he played
He
Baloo?
currently plays Baloo.
He plays
He's
Baloo?
been Baloo for like the last 15 years.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Even in like the Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie that the Lonely Island did a couple years ago on Disney Plus, he's Baloo in that.
I did not know.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Fun fact.
Yeah, he's no Phil Harris. Yeah. So like the Christmas
Christmas?
musicals, like Christmas was such an extended season for me. Like everybody's talking like, oh, it's like October and we're seeing Christmas stuff out, dude. Christmas was September for me as a kid because that's when all the churches were ordering their musicals, and
Right.
so that was the
Yep.
Christmas season for their business, and then from then on, Christmas was on my mind, and then my dad would go, like all of our gifts were like from garage sales and stuff, and he'd go year round, and he was looking for Christmas presents all year round. So
So did Christmas have a magic component to it, considering that you were helping with the business stuff and there was a calendar year and it stretched out and long, or you're saying as a mixed bag?
See, that's been part of the deconstruction of Christmas for me, is embracing the magic stuff, the international folklore stuff, the Santa-ness of it all. Being like, a huge part of Christmas for so many people is without Jesus, I can totally do Christmas and not have Jesus, and that's fine because I did it for my whole life exclusively Jesusing. So let's try it the other way.
Yeah.
Not much magic. I remember seeing there's Babar the elephant. There's a book of like Babar meets Father Christmas, and I remember seeing like an animated version of that like at my grandparents', and he like like his kids like lose their letter that they're going to send to him or something, so he goes up and like in this world, like those books are Belgian, I think, and so I think it's like a French idea of Father Christmas, where like he lives inside a mountain, and they had like this like Wes Anderson like cross cut of the whole factory that you see, as if the mountain's cut in half and all the different rooms where things are happening, and I just thought that was like the neatest thing ever, like a Richard Scarry sort of vision of Santa Claus. And I remember thinking that was really magical. I remember thinking the colored pencil animation from the UK, the Raymond Briggs, the Snowman from like 1982. That is absolutely magical. And I covered a song from that on the album that I did. That's still like my favorite Christmas movie. But yeah, that stuff had magic. Like the media of Christmas would have magic. The rituals, those always feel magical to me. Like the whole, I don't know about you, but when I am putting ornaments on a tree, in my head, I'm hearing the specific album that my parents would have playing when we put the ornaments on the tree when I was a kid.
100%.
So
actually,
what one is it?
Go ahead, Zach. For myself, like, and it's interesting because as a Canadian, we have Thanksgiving in October. I know Americans do it much later. You guys do it at the end of November. And so I put my Christmas tree up sometimes. American Thanksgiving can fall for really late. This year it fell late in November. My dad, his birthday was November 27th, and so since he's passed, and he like to my sister and I is such a representative of Christmas in our brains.
Sure.
So she was like, we're going to use his birthday. We're going to start a new tradition and use his birthday to put up the Christmas tree. And a bunch of my American friends like, you can't put up your tree on the 27th. I'm like, this is my dad's birthday, and I'm Canadian, so no, I'll do what I want.
Thanksgiving is almost always over by September.
Yeah.
November 27th.
We started this
My
as a new
daughter's
tradition.
birthday is that day.
Yeah, this was our new
Yeah.
Christmas tradition. My daughter,
love
myself, and my sister all put up our Christmas trees this year on my dad's birthday. I'm like, this is going to be our new thing. And we decorated it. And of course, I had the albums on that he used to sing, which were Bing Crosby, Dean Martin. He's Italian. So it was those guys. And that is, to me, is the Christmas music. It was like deeply although we were talking about Wicked before, but I was in a little bit of an Idina Menzel mood, and then Nate found an album of hers from 2019, a Christmas album that we started listening to.
Yeah, she has a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it had like
It's
a
her
big, it had a
her
big
second
band.
one. It's
It
got
had
the
a big band feel.
Not a fan of that first one.
That is my kind of style for Christmas music. So I was really like just in the mood, and I like, I rediscovered it. I discovered a new Christmas album to enjoy, to play along. But yeah, definitely setting up the tree. Okay, we're talking about young magic of when we were younger. Some of the early Christmas memories. So I got saved, quote unquote, got saved. So it doesn't mean anything the same to me as it did when I was evangelical, but when I, got indoctrinated, that's how I view it now. I was 7 years old.
You were old.
And I was old because my parents, like, I grew up in foster care. So they weren't giving me that from, most people who grew up in Christian homes, they were probably 4 years old. So they're old enough to piece the story together. Yep. I was a little older. My dad was taking me home on weekends, and he took me to church. And then I, was that traumatized kid who at 7 was given the story, and I latched onto it. But I have a memory in grade 2 before I really got super evangelical. And I remember in our public school, they asked us to each say, what is the meaning of Christmas? So secular public school in a very secular part of Canada.
Everybody knows that. It's presents.
Yeah, so it was really fun because we each gave a different answer, and it was part of the grade 2's presentation for the Christmas concert they did, was getting all the grade 2s up, the 7-year-olds to come up, and each of them say their line about Christmases to me. And I have this distinct memory of saying Christmas to me was the Christmas lights. That was my line. That was I think we each had to draw a picture too, and I had a picture of Christmas lights. And to this day, I love passing by houses that have really deck themselves out. One of the things I love doing over the holiday. I mean, I'm not great at it and I don't put the effort in, but I like going to visit other people who have the energy and motivation to deck out their yards and go visit the lights. And so for me, what's fun is having that childhood memory of picking out something before it became all about Jesus and using that as a reference to like, what did Christmas mean to me pre-indoctrination? And I have something. I was like, the Christmas lights were a big thing to me. And then also with my mom, we went to go watch Home Alone in theater. And I think those were my first Free Willy and Home Alone were the first not Christmas. Free Willy wasn't Christmas. But those were the first children's movies I remember going to see in theater. And Home Alone was the Christmas ones, both times. And so what's fun for me, for a long time as an evangelical, it was always about how to make Christmas, make sure Jesus stays the center, the reason for the season.
Yep.
The focus. It was always pushed at church constantly as like, you cannot lose that messaging or you're losing out on Christmas. And the pressure to make sure you were not getting caught up in anything that wasn't Jesus as the main focus, that you weren't sidelining Jesus. Because if you pushed in anything else, you could push out Jesus because he needed to be front and center of everything. So I feel like, it's me trying to grab onto those pieces that meant something to me, but I was kind of afraid to like too much because I didn't want it to push out Jesus or take my focus off of Jesus. But if I think back, it's fun now. When I listen to the songs on the radio that are Christmas songs related to Jesus, talking about Jesus, I pushed myself as an evangelical to listen to more of those songs so that I could keep my focus, right? Like Dean Martin, Bing Crosby, you guys, I got to keep you more to the side, but like, let me make sure I'm putting the Jesus songs first. And it's funny, as I deconstructed, I found I could listen to Jesus songs if they were sung by Whitney Houston or someone who's not evangelical. If they were not, if they were
Bing
not
Crosby or whatever.
If they were doing it, I could handle it. But for a while, I had a phase where I could not listen to Christians singing Christian. Like it just felt ick to me. I feel like part of my deconstruction, that whole world that used to mean a lot to me, there was so much hypocrisy popping out to me that listening to Christians singing Christian music just brought back way too much pressure, too much force feeding the Jesus stuff. There was an authenticity missing to me, and it didn't feel comfortable. It went from feeling lovely to feeling really gross.
So you're not a fan of Chris Tomlin's
Avalon's
Christmas album?
If I heard some of that stuff, it would give me like a very visceral reaction now.
Can't listen to Oh Holy Night.
Yeah.
I used to love that song, and that one is also the hardest one for me now. I cannot take it anymore.
I really struggle with it.
Yes.
I'm like, when there again, similar to Gail, when there are other like non-Christian artists who are performing the song, it's a little bit easier for me to swallow. But it's still one of those that it's so deeply embedded in that culture for me that it's really hard to listen to.
I performed it so many times and just as a solo and everything. I just can't. I can't anymore. I think that piece, taking Christ out of Christmas has been such a huge process for me. Like it's just, I almost feel a little thrill of rebellion about it this year. And whereas last year it was, in the couple of years before, it was just a lot of grieving, just like really, really sad. And I remember this year just dreading that it's going to be Christmas. Like this is the first time I've fully dreaded Christmas and just been like, oh, I'm not ready. I didn't turn on Christmas music until 2 days ago. Oof. Like that's how long it took me to
I started early November. Well, I listened throughout the year though.
Yeah,
because I'm buying Christmas records throughout the year so that I can put together a mix to share with
you're
folks
used to
in
doing
December.
Albums. Yeah, I'm more like Jessica. I have like a time where usually it's okay, December or for snowfall if it's in November. It's like
I get
once
really
the snow
sick of
hits.
it fast. So if I turn it on too early, then by Christmas Day I'm like, oh my god. The next day I'm
a bit like
off.
that.
Everybody turn it off. No more Christmas music, and the kids are like, what?
Yeah, I would get sick of it if it was like the radio station that has a playlist of like 15 Christmas songs that they just
Mariah
repeat.
Carey.
It's
Stop
on
it.
24/7.
But, like-
And, like my kids wanted it on every minute of every day, all day long in the
Yeah,
house.
it's all the same
on every speaker.
things. It's that stuff is so
It's a lot.
frustrating. But you know,
You can't get away from it.
you know,
There's only so many times you can hear the same song in 25 million different versions.
I wish I could find
that's why I
the
get
face.
other things
Yeah,
that aren't just
there you
covers
go.
of
There
the
you go.
of the same classics. You know, I
There-
try to get a
there
lot of
was
weird
a-
stuff.
There was a funny Facebook meme that I saw that was something along the line of, in an alternate universe, Mariah Carey is in a store listening to me singing off key and is really frustrated of hearing my voice over and over and over on repeat or something like that. I was just laughing at imagining it.
That's so funny.
Thanks for listening to this podcast from the Dauntless Media Collective. If you enjoy what you're hearing, we think you'll also enjoy some of our other shows, which you can find by visiting dauntless.fm. Here's a sample from one of them.
DECONSTRUCT. Gotta deconstruct.
Hello, deconstructionists. This is Maggie, the host of our podcast, where we'll collectively share our stories and experiences of leaving high control religion, along with what it's been like for us to find new practices that help us feel good and confident in ourselves. I hope that hearing these stories reminds you that your deconstruction is valid, and most of all, that you are not alone on this journey. You are good, you are loved, and you are worthy, just as you are.
Hello, deconstructionists.
Subscribe to this podcast by visiting dauntless.fm.
Hey everyone, I'm Jessica from the Leaving the Village podcast. I wanted to take a moment to say thank you for tuning into this show. We're so grateful that you've decided to spend your time with us. Seriously, Dan, Gail, Kathleen, Nate, Scott, and the rest of us here at the Dauntless Media Collective couldn't produce content like the show you're listening to without your support. I'd also like to invite you even further into the conversation. Right now, there are some great discussions happening over in the Dauntless Media Collective Discord server. If you're interested in chatting with other folks who are deconstructing and decolonizing the oppressive traditions they came from, please feel free to hop onto the server. If you don't know what Discord is, it's a place where communities can gather online for chatting on a wide variety of topics. In our Discord server, we have channels devoted to general deconstruction conversations, some meme sharing, therapeutic venting about whatever religious bullshit you're currently dealing with, and even a channel specifically devoted to talking about the latest episode of the podcast you're listening to right now. I hope you'll join us. You can log in directly to the Dauntless server by clicking on the link in the show notes or heading to dauntless.fm and clicking on the link in the top banner. See you there.
I'm a really big fan of this early 90s Miami booty bass Christmas song that I found this year by a group called
sounds awesome.
Silence featuring Disco Rick called Santa Claus Comin'. And that is not a cover of a Bing Crosby song, and that is never going to be played on the Christmas radio station. And I like finding weird shit like that to listen to at Christmas time. So, and we don't do Thanksgiving anymore. Like, we're just done with it. Like, when my family canceled it and my dad died a few months later, so like we never got the do-over. Thanksgiving's just always sad. And I'm not that interested in a colonizer holiday. So once Halloween's over, I am free to do Christmas stuff, and I would have a Christmas tree up like the first of Thanksgiving if it wasn't going to die before then. Really, the only thing holding me back is I go the day that our Christmas tree farm opens.
The natural people, those are your good
I was there like the
I'm
second
natural
hour
girl.
that they were
Let's
open
have
their
a
first
real
day.
tree.
Oh, absolutely. No,
And I
no
don't know
excuses.
where
I
you
am a
are,
fake
Zach.
one.
Like,
I am.
where do you live?
Seattle.
Where are you, Zach?
We have
Seattle?
lots of
Okay.
trees. Yeah.
And that's
Okay, so I grew up in Western North Carolina, where it's all Fraser Fir, like Christmas tree farms,
Yeah.
and I must.
I'm a Doug
have-
fir guy.
Yeah, I figured you were, but I gotta have my Fraser Fir every year.
All right.
You got to go pick that out. Go further if you have to go get the one.
Everybody in Texas is like, those are expensive. I'm like, y'all buy a pokey, nasty little Charlie Brown thingy, and you call that a tree, and you pay like $15, and you think that's expensive? No.
Nah. Gotta get the real deal. You gotta cut it down. No. And when you get it home, you gotta put hot water in the tree stand to get rid of that sap and open it up, let it suck that up right away. And really, you should get rid of your old tree stand and buy the German tree genie.
Oh.
The greatest tree stand I've ever used. It's incredible.
You have to
I'll talk to my parents. My parents tend to go back and forth. Like they'll do the fake thing for a few years, and then suddenly they'll be like, "We need a real tree again." So
I don't know how you can go back and forth. Like you have like storage space allocated once you have a fake one.
Yeah,
sometimes they just don't pull it out. Is what he's saying.
Sometimes they don't pull it out, and they'll go out and buy a real tree, and then my mom will get fed up with doing that for a few years and go back to pulling the fake tree out of the closet. With my parents getting a dog, they've been like, well, we can't do the real tree because that thing is just going to leave its needles everywhere, and the dog's going to eat it all up, and then she's going to have
different trees don't drop a ton of needles. It depends. Yeah, if you cut it down yourself, it's more alive and it'll last longer. You put that hot water in.
Try to convince somebody who lives 25 minutes outside Manhattan to go find a place to cut their own tree down.
City kids, that is a different, entirely different. Definitely growing up in the city, we weren't going out to the farms and getting a tree. I mean, there's some people, city people.
I mean,
but it's more common, I think. I'm going to guess. Just take a gander that the city kids often had their fake trees. My parents didn't even have a car, so it was public transit. We had no way to haul this thing. If we wouldn't got a real tree.
Yeah, no, I understand there are reasons. Like, I'm not shaming anybody for not having it. I'm saying
We're
personally
not tree shaming anyone here on All Mutuality. Okay,
I can't
love that whole scene.
Do
you remember Spirited last year? The with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, the Ryan Reynolds Will Ferrell movie. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't watched it.
I love that movie.
I know.
I've seen it like 4 times. The music is great. It is so good. But he does a whole scene about real trees. And
so Zach is avoiding it.
I saw it.
I'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah, that means Gail's going to love it.
I'm going to love it.
No, it's so good. You guys, why are you like this?
I said, I listened to it. Greatest Showman has enjoyed that. I definitely.
Gail loves The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
I'm
Spirited
a
is one of my favorite Christmas movies now. It's hands down.
I'll check it out, Jessica. Yeah, well,
one of my favorites, if I could recommend one, is The Silent Partner from 1978, starring Elliot Gould as a bank teller that gets tipped off that a guy is going to rob the bank in a Santa costume, takes the money for himself, so the robber ends up with nothing, but the bank is known to be robbed. The guy figures it out and comes back, and scary antics ensue.
Interesting.
That makes me feel like when we watched...
It is not a musical.
Oh,
I have a...
We were talking about musicals.
Well, sorry, we're talking about Christmas movies. I have maintained a list on my Letterboxd account of all the Christmas movies I have watched, and it's about 250 at this point.
Is Die Hard included? I'm just curious. Does it make Christmas list?
This is an established thing. Yeah,
I think we're all done arguing that one.
It was very intentionally a Christmas movie. Yes.
When you mentioned the robbery and all that, that's what popped in my head. And scariness ensuing. I was like, I watched Die Hard only for the first time.
Last year?
Last year, we watched it at Christmas, and I never seen that at Christmas. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Okay, I have a question.
What that whole debate is.
Yes. I have a question about Handel's Messiah. How many of do you guys have any feelings about Handel's Messiah?
Yeah, I'm tired of it. It's overdone, and I hate all of those like churches where nobody can sing, but they still do it anyway.
Yeah. I can take it or leave it. I feel like if I were at a candlelight service, I'd be okay with it. But there's no part of me that's like, man, Christmas is not complete unless I've heard Handel's Messiah.
I'm not even sure what that song is.
No, it's not a song. It's a whole...
Yeah, it's a whole play, but the
concerto.
Hallelujah song is super famous.
The Hallelujah chorus.
The Hallelujah is the Hallelujah chorus,
Okay.
Which, that part of the concerto is supposed to be the Easter portion of the concerto.
Right.
Like you're
Yes.
supposed to be reserving that. And that's part of what made, fundamentalist high school Nate, who was too much of a purist about everything. That's part of what made me upset, was because like we're supposed to be doing this at Easter. And I remember one year our music director at my church, which I don't think we should have been doing this because they didn't have the talent, but still did it anyway, was like, we're going to do part of Handel's Messiah at Christmas, and then we're not going to do the Hallelujah Chorus, and we're going to save the Hallelujah Chorus for Easter, which he ended up doing, which was kind of annoying because then it sort of confused all of the visitors that
like,
came
wait,
to the church.
is
They're like,
this a
why are
Christmas
we
song?
doing this?
Yeah. Because it's traditionally played at Christmas time now.
Yes,
I mean, like,
exactly.
people
Exactly.
There's all sorts of stuff like that. Jingle Bells was not written to be
Yeah.
a Christmas song.
Right.
Handel's Messiah
Over
was
the
one of
river
those,
and through the woods was
to grandmother's house we go.
And I
that's a Thanksgiving.
fully
Yeah, is it?
say that my favorite things should not be considered a Christmas song at all.
I have felt
No.
that is an interesting one. Why did
How
that
is that-
become a Christmas song?
Yeah. How did that become a
She
Christmas song?
names a whole bunch of things, and some of them are things that occur in wintertime. But I always think, like,
Yeah.
even when she says brown paper packages tied up with string, to
Tied
me
up
it's
with
like
string.
that's what you'd ship.
That's
Yeah.
or that's a gift for somebody on their birthday.
But like, if it's
I mean,
in
like,
brown paper, that's
not
a
Christmas.
very utilitarian thing. That's not
Exactly.
a Christmas presentation.
yeah,
Right.
Like, that's not the final form the thing is taking when you
And
hand
raindrops
it to
on
somebody.
roses is
Like,
very springy.
Yeah.
yeah. There's all
Raindrops
sorts
on
of
roses,
spring
whis-
things that get mentioned.
whiskers on kittens,
And I don't think it's like Christmas time in
bright
the movie
copper
when she
kettles
sings
and
that.
No,
warm
it
mittens.
isn't.
I mean, like it's all over the map, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like throughout
When
the
it-
calendar year, there's things that I enjoy.
So I think we're in agreement. Actually, the four of us on this point, we've all landed on the same. Good job, guys. You found
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Found something we all agree on.
not liking that as a Christmas song.
So I'm curious to maybe get some reflections on different maybe transitions that you've made over the years on ways that you've adjusted to your shifts in your faith and how you've adjusted to make Christmas fit with that, or made it easier to go through the holiday season for yourself, or a way of reclaiming it or owning it. What I feel like I've gone through a few different ones, and I'm curious what that's looked like. For
I
each
got
of you
one
guys.
that's pretty fundamental. Stopping putting up a nativity.
Yeah.
I
same.
continued to put up a nativity for a while. I really enjoyed the nativity that I had. It was pretty unusual, pretty distinct. Had a really nice style to it. I enjoyed putting it up. And last year was the first year that we just left it in the box, and instead I put up a like laser woodcut mid-century home from World Market, and then bought some California Raisins figures on eBay and
Nice.
have them
That is
partying
awesome.
outside the house at Christmas time. So that is very silly. It's, I don't know if it's necessarily magical, but the California Raisins are in the claymation Christmas TV
Listen,
special.
California
that we
raisins
watch
are
every year.
100% Christmas.
They're
yes.
definitely Christmas.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
part of that. And the figures that I got are Christmas figures. Like one's got a Santa hat and all this.
Perfect.
So no more nativity, but we have the California Raisins now.
There you go.
That's awesome.
There you
And,
go.
but
That's a
that
great
really,
one.
it was a decision. It was like, you
Yeah.
know what? I just can't do the nativity anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do something so not that.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
the center of the mantle, you know?
Yeah.
So what's going to be a thing that will command some attention, that'll be interesting right there? And first thing I thought of course, was the California Raisins.
Yeah. Nice.
That's amazing.
Nice.
I was gonna
I
say, but
love
when you
that.
talked about taking the nativity out, I'm like, I hope you put something irreverent there. Like, and silly and funny is great. Like, I think taking out the seriousness of it and putting something that makes you actually smile and have actual joy and that just brings humor into it can be really soothing. I know for myself, it was Christmas cards were one of those ways I felt like I had to proclaim my faith. Like it was one of, you know, if you're not going to invite people to Christmas concert or whatever you're putting on, if you didn't succeed in witnessing or evangelizing or whatever, I was like, well, Christmas cards are going to be the way that I still let everyone know what the true meaning of Christmas is. So I'd look around for Christmas cards that were pretty, but that still portrayed the message of Jesus. Like that was something I did as an evangelical. And so I think one of those
Couldn't
transitions.
say happy holidays. No, happy
absolutely
holidays.
not. No, it had to say something about Jesus in it and the
Christmas.
meaning. Yeah. Oh, I know people who capitalize
The Christ in
and it's not
Christmas.
even Christmas. It's Christ mess in every message. Like it's nonstop. Yeah, that's
All caps.
All
Christ.
caps. Always. Yes.
Lowercase MAS.
Exactly. So for me, part of the, I guess my, switching out the nativity was sending out irreverent Christmas cards and, fun Christmas cards, Snoopy on my Christmas cards, silliness on my Christmas cards, things that were just entertaining and fun and enjoyable and joyful without the whole heaviness that came along with having to
Angry, salty New Jersey themed Christmas
I
cards.
did have a New Jersey themed Christmas card once. Yes, I did. As part of my accepting my transition to Jersey.
I just got a Christmas card that because something to have like a gift card in or whatever. Like I got a thing for my sister and her partner, and it says like, "You bring joy to the world."
That's amazing.
Nice.
And I
Love that.
and I really like the look of it, and I like what it says. But I also in buying, I'm like, I'll bet my mom's going to be offended by this. Like, you can't take the phrase "joy to the world" and apply it to just a human.
Okay.
Human.
You know what? That's a great, I feel like my earliest
that,
deconstruction memories, actually, when it came to Christmas, was when I was still believing. And from my transition too, I think it feels similar to your timeline in that you were talking about 2018, Zach. I feel like 2018 was a transition for me. 2019, I was still believing, but the wheels were starting to come off little by little. When I first met Nate, I went into a progressive church, and I haven't been all year this year. And definitely Trump's election has done something for me to even listen to progressive messages. And it's like the God stuff is hitting me very differently all of a sudden. Not that I feel like I was already an atheist Christian, if that would be the label I would have put on myself, but now it's like anything Christian messaging is hitting me, which is, it's rough. It feels very abrasive, as if I were to take a word and put it on it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so one of those transitions for me was when I was still believing in all of this. It was Jesus is incarnate. So God being personally with us, even if I was starting to doubt a lot of stuff, it was like, okay, well, we could see God in us. What you just said, sorry, about replacing Jesus with joy in us. I was like, well, what if we see Jesus in people? What if God connecting with us is seeing God in humans? What if God in the flesh is something we should be embracing more of? And that was a twisting, like a step forward for me in kind of moving beyond the evangelical beliefs that I've been passed on to being like the verses. We did this at our wedding. We read the one Bible passage we read was God is love, and whoever lives in love, God lives in them. And I love that because it has a universalist vibe of divinity living in people, and anyone who lives in love lives in God. It's a little broader than just if you believe in Jesus, then he lives in you. It's anyone who's living in love has the essence of God in them. So I think for me that first, I loved that comment you made about, how an evangelical might be offended. Well, you can't replace joy to the world being about Jesus to being about us. And I'm like, but isn't that interesting that, like, for me, one of those first steps was looking at Jesus as God incarnate and being like, humanity can be God incarnate. That should be something we see God in people. And that's something beautiful and something important. So that was like maybe my first step out of the narrow box that I'd been given before I started my irreverent Christmas cards and that kind of stuff. Curious other steps you guys have gone through or different.
Joy is Jesus first, yourself last, and others in between.
What about for you? Do you remember any of your steps or stages?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, it was there were different steps and stages. Like, after leaving fundamentalism, this kind of the trappings of the Santa stuff entering the realm, even in an evangelical environment. When I was in more of a mainstream evangelical world, the Santa stuff was all over the place, which was kind of fun. There was a lot that I felt like, when I started attending a mainstream evangelical church, I felt like I could actually sort of have fun with things. And that was kind of the big thing that, and the church that I was attending at the time, one of their like core values that they put on their tagline for everything was church is fun. And that kind of stuck with me because, you know, throughout however like 24
fundamentalism didn't have fun in it, even though it did.
Like, you know, 20 some odd years of my life, church was not fun. It was, you know, it was serious. It was responsibility. And, you know, so
Beautiful.
To be in that kind of environment where we could do fun stuff, like, you know, the Santa hats, all of the little trappings, singing songs that were not necessarily Christian Christmas carols, that was fun.
That was a step.
That was a step. And then, yeah, that kind of stuck around for a little while. When I ended up at that Acts 29 church, a lot of that stuff kind of started to die down because, again, Acts 29 churches are nothing if not very somber about, you know, the holy holidays. And so those sorts of enjoyable, magical things were kind of pushed off to the side a little bit. We still kind of like threw on some Santa hats and stuff, but we did have people in our church who were like not comfortable with that.
What about like since leaving?
Well, So I'm getting there. Sorry.
Okay.
And then, you know, coming out of that world and beginning to embrace some of the, I think part of what I found enjoyable about entering the sort of Hillsong world were the amount of talent that we had in the musician pool. And so everybody around Christmas time, everybody was doing different things and playing different things. And we had the little jazz band in the lobby with the smooth jazz Christmas thing going on. And I could get involved in every little aspect of that. And the artistry around non-Christian Christmas stuff was starting to come back up. Now for me, it's all about just avoiding the religious Christmas songs, you know, and sticking to those musicians who tend to avoid that stuff as well. You know, as far as
yelling at my Siri, my HomePod.
God, right?
Skip that song. Skip that song. Siri, skip that song.
Yeah.
I go to the Home Alone soundtrack for my nostalgia.
I do love that song. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
I don't. As far as like, I guess Christmas for me has lost a lot of the kind of magic. But I think there are certain things around it that I enjoy, like movies, like those little, you know, sitting down with some of the classics or even finding new Christmas movies to really get into and enjoy. So I'm excited to try Spirited, that, you know, something new to
I think the thing I enjoyed about Spirited is that it's not trying to make you believe in Santa. That's the other thing that triggers the hell out of me. Why are we? It feels very evangelical. Like we gotta believe in Santa now?
The Polar Express is awful. I think
miss me with this, please.
The notorious example of that.
What about Elf?
Oh yeah, Elf
too, right?
Yeah, Elf.
There's a million.
Elf, another
There's
one. Trying to like
force
force Santa belief on people.
The
but
Santa
like
Claus. All of that. It's not. He's not going to work unless he believes.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to believe.
Gotta believe. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's part of what leaves bad tastes in my mouth. Like I still love Elf for the sheer silliness of the movie, but we did it.
We did it, guys. We made the best coffee.
Right, yeah.
Congratulations. But yeah, I think those kinds of things, I almost never drink hot chocolate except this time of year, and that the flavors, the tastes, the smells, those kinds of things. Eggnog, coquito. I mean, I live in an area that's got a lot of Latina people, so coquito is a big part of. So when that flavor starts coming around, I'm like, yes, let's do it.
I had that for the first
for
time last year. It was very good.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I currently have 9 cartons of eggnog in my garage fridge.
Eggnog is a little much for me. Even coquito is. But what I like
don't
about
drink glasses of it. I put a little in my tea every morning,
oh,
and I'll put
that's a good
it
idea.
in oatmeal, and
Okay.
I'll do French toast with it.
Nice.
Put it in like doing icing on cookies. Put a little in that. But
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know, the expiration date's not like till February, so we just load up.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, just use it for everything. I love
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, in my tea, it's the best.
Yeah. So I guess focusing on those kinds of things. Gail, you were talking about the lights. I did want to mention though that Gail twisted my arm a few years ago, and convinced me to drag her to Rockefeller Center, or dragged me to Rockefeller Center.
Oh, that was a bad decision to make. Don't go and listen. If you think of, what it is, Home Alone is to blame for a lot of our New York nostalgia. If you're in your 40s,
at Christmas.
okay, and wanting to go to Rockefeller. If you want to go in November, maybe. And when does it go up? It goes up December 1st.
No, it goes up. Yeah, it usually goes up the first week of December.
Ugh.
So, and then once it's up and the lights are on, that's it. You're
in a mob of people,
And the
and you
skating
will
rink,
not get you.
Do you have to
forget
get
that.
tickets weeks in advance for the
and
skating
they're like
rink?
it's
What's the
like
deal?
$60
Oh my
to skate. It's stupid,
nuts.
and that doesn't include. Well, I mean, I play hockey, so I bring my own skates, but that doesn't include if you have to rent your own skates. It's like another $30 to rent,
A locker.
and then you have to get a locker because you can't just leave your stuff sitting. So yeah, however much that costs.
$100 to
stupid.
skate around.
It's to skate in a crowd of people
crowd.
that are moving at most 3 miles an
And
hour
the worst,
around
okay, here's my pet peeve with skating with people who don't know how to skate is they grab onto you because they're
Right,
going to
'cause
fall.
they're scared.
And
Yeah,
then
and they think
you're
they're gonna
like,
fall.
what? You're
Yeah.
dragging me down? Like, I want to, if somebody tries to grab me, I have instincts that want to punch them. So this is just a bad thing. When I'm around people who can't skate and they
that
start
doesn't-
trying to clutch onto me, I'm
That
like,
doesn't bother me as much, but I think part of it
you were
because I
teaching
taught
kids to skate.
Yeah.
That's why you're used to being grabbed. But I'm
Yeah.
like, don't touch me. This is my personal bubble.
So you
What are you
shouldn't
doing?
have taken
also-
Nate to the tree. You should have taken, for his Home Alone experience, should have taken him to Duncan's toy chest to get 2 turtle doves.
That's right.
Oh man, I remember
Sadly, that
walking
doesn't
around
exist.
looking for that, and it's
FAO
like,
Schwartz does. Oh yeah, you were walking around looking for
looking
Duncan's
for
toy. That does not exist.
It's not
The
it's not a
old
thing.
FAO Schwartz that's not there anymore. They
Is what they based it off of.
yeah.
Yeah.
They did reopen FAO Schwartz eventually, but it's not in the same location.
So I talked Nate into going with me to Rockefeller, and the crowds of people were so thick and big that like I never understood the stampede thing until that moment, and
was
then I
like-
was like, we're gonna die. We're actually like this crowd is pushing us. Like we're not walking at our own pace.
No, we're
we
being
are now
lifted and
being shuffled by a crowd that we cannot get out of.
Yeah.
It was a very
It was basically
not a good experience.
You were probably safer just raising your feet off the ground and letting the crowd carry you. Because if you
Crowd
put your
surf.
feet on the ground, you would get dragged under. So
No, I highly 0 stars. Do not recommend.
Yeah.
Don't go try to see Rockefeller, the tree from
it
Home Alone.
used to be that you could go into Manhattan, you could go into Midtown Manhattan, and like on Christmas Day, because most
Everybody was
people
with their
were with their
family at
families, and Midtown would be practically empty. But
That's
for
changed.
some reason, that's
Everyone
no
got that
longer.
memo.
Everybody got the memo.
Yeah, everyone
and they're
got that
all
memo.
going into the city on Christmas Day, and I'm like, hey, this was my family's idea.
Yeah, go away.
guys are ruining my
Exactly.
childhood idea that we
Bah
enjoyed.
humbug.
Yeah, I think really you just have to wait until like the last week that the tree is up,
Yeah, that's probably.
and then
your shot
that's
at
yeah,
seeing
it's like the middle of January or something. It's probably
Take
your
pictures,
your best
and
shot.
then post them the next year and be like, "Look at us." Nobody will know. No one will know the
it.
lies.
These are
Exactly.
Christmas hacks from Jessica Goforth.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hire a photographer.
Okay, so I'm gonna put it out there. I know we don't have as big listenership to really ruin this for the town, but if you live anywhere near the Hudson Valley of New York, in the town of Hudson, they have a winter walk that is
Super cute.
It's phenomenal. That was the most fun I've had in any sort of holiday thing. It was very non-religious themed, thankfully, and just
Little stores.
all the shops along the main street got into it. They would open up and they would have musicians inside the stores. You could walk around and do some
playing
shopping.
outside. Little kids doing
there was
performances.
Exactly.
It was beautiful.
A jazz band outside. There was like a little circus, trailer, and they did a couple of acts out front, and all these vendors came out with kettle corn and hot chocolate, eggnog, and bone broth and hot dogs everything. And it was a great
amazing.
It was just missing
spot.
snow. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
As a Canadian, I was like, come on, guys.
Well,
missing something here.
Yeah. I mean,
but it was cute.
I got plenty of snow because I went skiing the next day.
That's true. You went up in the mountain, but yeah.
But yeah, if you live anywhere near, or if you're thinking about visiting the Hudson Valley in New York, that is definitely a thing to check out.
Here
the winter
it's
walk
like 65 degrees, so or
Texas
70.
Christmas, eh? Yeah,
Cannot
forget
imagine.
snow.
Yeah, it was.
We're like, snow? What? Even if it's just cold, it would feel Christmassy to
Okay,
us.
but you grew up in North Carolina, so could
I
you get
did,
snow up a
with
mountain?
snow.
You can go
Yeah,
up a mountain and be like, I'll be with
yeah.
the snow for a moment
Yeah.
and then come back down. Okay.
Yeah, it snowed on Christmas quite a few times, even in Charlotte.
What is
Oh, wow.
what is Seattle weather like around Christmas? Does it snow? Is it raining? Is it raining?
Well, climate change has changed that significantly. So growing up, it felt like we'd get snow every 3 years or so, maybe 2 out of 3 years. But I only have a memory of a couple instances of it really piling up enough to like build a snowman or anything. And now, but at the same time, we also like had like one hot week in the summer. And now we have full summers with lots of heat and hotter. And we have, most years we get snow several days. And my kids have had a lot of snowy days. So it's definitely changed. But I remember it being like a really big deal to me as a kid, like wanting a white Christmas. And
Me too.
normally
like
we
it-
wouldn't get snow till like January or February.
Yeah, us too. Yeah.
And we've had it a couple times, and it's been so cool. My favorite Christmas experience in a city though was my wife and I got married in December, and we weren't really taking into account that would make Christmas and anniversary celebrating
Right.
difficult going
So
forward.
complicated.
But
Yeah.
we honeymooned in London, and there was just so much Christmas stuff everywhere. And it wasn't Christmas Eve, but we went to a Christmas evening service at St. Paul's Cathedral that was just phenomenal.
Wow.
And I've never experienced anything like that anywhere else. It was just so cool to be in, I don't know, the land of Dickens. My parents were total Anglophiles. They'd have Dickens parties and dress up like Dickens. We'd do caroling door to door with my dad wearing like a top hat and all that stuff, you know. And they had the Dickens Village, and my uncle acted in Christmas Carol every year and all this.
Wow.
And so Christmas to me is kind of Britain.
Yes, it's very British. Yeah.
Do you do the
My
little,
parents are very
little
British.
poppers?
My mother is so.
We've gotten those a few
Oh, yeah.
times.
We do those every
There's
year.
never really much in them that's of interest, but
No.
but yeah,
That's
of
not
course
the
we do them.
point.
Yeah.
It's a tradition.
Yeah.
We do it.
The
every
only time
year.
I've ever done those was like here in Canada. 'Cause-
yeah, my sister
yeah.
was doing them one
Yeah.
year.
We don't.
Yeah, we do it with
yeah, it's
my
not-
parents. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, they're fun.
Every year. I can't wait for this year because you wear your hat at the table.
Yeah, the little crown and
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
we-
yeah.
I'm missing the snow in Jersey. I have to say, like Nate will point out to me, like talking about climate change and what you were experiencing, Zach. Same. Nate was like, "Oh, growing up, we had white Christmases often enough, and now
And every January it would be like, okay, we're saying goodbye to the grass until March.
Right.
and now
yeah.
you don't see snow on the ground. I mean, it's very small later once in a blue moon. And
No. I mean, we do get a small layer still, but it's the big storm is the once in a blue moon. But then what had been the case over the years, growing up, it was the big storm, and that would be it. Literally, you're never seeing another blade of grass until March, April.
And now,
And then now it
melts.
melts like a day later or 2 days later, completely. And there's nothing left.
And
on
he'll
the
point out
ground.
to me the signs on the poles that still say, like, if there's snow, don't park there. And I'll just laugh. I'll be like, I've never seen snow here.
Yeah,
What are they
but that's the
talking?
vestiges,
He's
because
like,
we have
"See?"
snow warning
He's like,
signs still up.
I didn't make it up that it used to snow here. What's funny about where I live in Montreal, in Canada, and I'm moving in 2 weeks, so I'm saying goodbye to what I'm used to, and is we have to have snow tires on December 1st because there's always snow. I mean, there's snow on the ground currently, and that's regular. But actually, the snow has picked up as it's warmed up, because in Canada it can get so cold where I live that
It can't
doesn't snow because
Right,
it's too
'cause
cold.
It's too cold. Yes.
So
yeah.
as it's warmed up, we've gotten dumped with like record snowfalls because it's just
that's
gotten
interesting.
so.
Yeah.
So I kind of am gonna miss that. I like take videos of the snow now. I'll look through my memory feeds and like, look, every year snow this time of year, and now I'm gonna be moving to the land where I'll have to look through my videos to
Yeah.
like see snow, or I'll just come visit my kids and I'll get like a sense of it, dig out my car and be like, hey, I'm done with that. I'm good now.
Yeah.
Get stuck in a snow pile and then be like, okay, the nostalgia's done.
Never mind. I'm good.
I'm good.
So funny.
What do you mean I was supposed to bring a shovel in my car?
Forgot I needed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here we are on the other side of certain truth, as you put it in your song, Zach. And now we're finding other ways to celebrate this time of year. But I enjoy kind of, I guess, still some of the, like, I think I'm starting to pick up a little bit of the holiday vibe again, and finding different ways of enjoying that. Like, my dad had started kind of picking up omisoka on New Year's, which is the Japanese end of year celebration, and so that's kind of fun to take hold of, like, another tradition that's a part of my DNA. I don't enjoy the fact that my dad decides let's have a prayer and as well, but like whatever, I don't like to muddy the waters with like, yeah, this is a distinctly Japanese thing we're doing, but dad wants to bring, his new faith in. Well, it's fine, whatever. I don't care. It's it's a very minor thing because my dad's very like not in your face when it comes to religion. It's just sort of like sitting down to family gatherings. We sit down to pray, but
I'm sure that is probably for each of us interesting with family, evangelical family, and navigating just that, right? Like blending where you are today with family that's still very into all of the stuff that you're no longer seeing that way, right?
Yeah.
Like we've each got our own processes that we've gone through of where we've changed the meaning.
yeah. How do you all like handle that? Do you have thoughts? Are there experiences that you've had, or even like some tips for dealing with those kinds of circumstances, when you get to this, the holiday gatherings and stuff with evangelical family?
I still gather with my family, and they're all very, very evangelical. And yes, we've been very intentional about staying connected, even though I'm, so deconstructed. And they all know, like, some of them haven't asked. They haven't been like, so where are you at now, Jessica? Like because I'm not real explicit on my Facebook or in places like that. And some of my family just doesn't follow me because they don't want to know. I think it's
Don't
easier
wanna
to just
know.
not know.
For some
them.
people, it's easier.
Yeah.
Lot
And
easier.
so I have several close family members that just don't look. And they're like, I love you, Jessica. I just don't read your stuff. It's not because I don't want to read what you write or what you say, but I just want to have our relationship be what it's always been. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I hear that. So my family has been very kind and very intentional about, there's just a quick prayer before a meal because that's what everybody does. And so everybody gathers around and holds hands and prays. And, my brother's become Catholic. So if it's at his house, then we all, make the sign of the cross and bless us, O Lord, and these are gifts that we're about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord, amen, or whatever. And I don't know that. I mean, I just rattled it off, but like, I don't know it the way they do. So I usually try to follow along and call it good. And My parents don't know that at all. My parents are not Catholic, and the other side of their family isn't Catholic either. So everybody just kind of nods along. If it's at my mom's house, then it's a traditional prayer where my dad or, one of the other men, of course, leads the prayer, and we all say a hearty amen and call it good. And then from that point on, I think we're pretty much done with the hyper evangelical stuff. And that has been kind of them to just let there be air there, and let their own more Bible readings and what are you praising God for right now? Conversations have kind of faded away. So that's been nice. And I think that we try really, really hard to love seeing each other and love being together, and not make it about religion so that we can just stay connected. And that's been very, very sweet and very wonderful. And I feel like I can sit there. I do think it's a whole other experience for me. Like, I am so keenly aware of the fact that this is so different, to be on the other side and to look around and be like, oh, none of this is my thing. I don't feel like I'm on the inside anymore. I feel like I'm on the outside. So it all lands differently. I hear it all through a whole different ears.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. It's almost more, I try to sit with it and absorb the reality of the fact that I don't buy any of this stuff anymore. But again, it's brief, so it doesn't force me to do it the whole time or anything. But yeah, and I'm proud of my family for trying to do that and to stay loving and connected and focused on just how much we enjoy each other. We enjoy seeing each other. We want to be together. So that's been beautiful, and I'm grateful for that. So
Definitely have a range of family gatherings that, on the good end, reflect what you just expressed, and on the more difficult end, there's a lot more family.
It sounds like Zach's family's just stopped gathering at all, for the most part.
Well, Thanksgiving. But
Just Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, my wife's family all moved to Idaho, to help build the theocracy. But my mom has remarried, and they live part-time here and part-time in Florida. But I always host, since my dad died, I host the Christmas gatherings.
Okay.
And when my wife's family was still here, we would go to their place. So I would host Christmas Eve for my family, and then my wife and our kids would do our Christmas thing in the morning on Christmas, and then we'd drive out to her family and do Christmas Day with them. And when I was at their house, I just kind of try to avoid prayer and stuff like that. It's their house, so they're probably gonna be the ones to say. But if they want to be like, hey Zach, why don't you do the prayer, I just try to be busy.
Yeah.
These rolls need moving around and covering or whatever. Try to be doing something. I didn't, I hadn't told them that they still don't know really. I mean, they may have intuited, but they don't, boundaries. I don't feel like I need to tell them that I'm not a Christian. I only told my mom a few months ago, and it went better than I expected. But so this will be the first time hosting Christmas where everybody that will be attending will know that our family are not people of faith anymore. So my plan then is to, before we eat, lead a prayer to the California raisins.
Nice.
That's awesome.
No, if I could see a situation where my mom just asks if it's okay if she or her husband prays before we eat, and I don't have a problem with that. That's their ritual, their tradition. That's fine. if it were, this is your house, why don't you go ahead and lead? Like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easier when it's, something short and the person hosting is saying a quick prayer. That seems to be that's easier. I still find myself getting antsy. Like I still find myself scratching the dog or distracted. It's a coping mechanism when they get into that, depending on who's praying. That'll have a lot to do with how anxious I get, because certain people go on a lot longer and need to make their points and need to turn it into a sermon, and other people are able to just pass through it more normally. Like it's just a prayer before the meal. It's all this is. So
Thanks for the food. Let's eat.
Those are my favorite ones. But
I feel like I attempted to pray without praying once, just made statements. Not directed at God or whatever. Just it's so nice to be here with everybody. Yes. And around Christmas time, and I
feel like that's how atheists pray, and it sounds so great when they do it.
If you use the right tone, some people just assume you're praying.
Yeah,
right. It's perfect.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
add
so
some just in there.
That we've all gathered here. Exactly. I'm just so grateful that we've all gathered here, just to be around this table. Yeah.
It's such a blessing
to just enjoy this bounty.
It totally
and just
sounds like a prayer, but no, you're just expressing some thoughts.
I love it.
I just can't wait to open these presents.
So perfect.
I love it. I definitely can't. The short stuff is great. That kind of stuff. I think if it gets into long family devotionals around the holidays, which has happened, then I really do not know how internally to cope with those kinds of things. I start to feel like I'm climbing a wall internally. I have a big struggle with it. So that is a challenge. Last Thanksgiving, our family, I was expecting the devotional to come out with my evangelical family, and instead they just chose to write one thing they were thankful for and stick it in a box, and then they kind of read them all out, and it turned really beautiful, really fast. And I was like, I wish it was more of this kind of a thing instead of let's drone out a whole Bible story and
with
make
the Bible
sure...
story stuff. I just end up finding something else to do, my kid needs to be I don't know, help to use the bathroom or something. All of a sudden I have something that I have to do.
It's those ones are challenging in your family because there's an expectation everybody sits around the
everybody has to sit and everybody's got to listen, and so then I have to find different ways to cope through those, and it's hard because it's this is my chance to see a lot of my family that gather together just for those one times a year, that's my chance to see everyone. So bailing out of those, it's not something I'm willing to do. I don't want to miss seeing everyone. But
yeah. Like to the prayer thing, in my family, there are enough in the family who who we are during the prayer. Whoever's leading the prayer, if they're long-winded, you kind of just look around the room and you could see,
who are all the ones who are not into this, who are looking at each other are they gonna end soon?
You got my brother who's doing the thing where he's sipping his drink, or he's just and he kind of shuffles around.
I'm always the person that starts eating before they pray. I'm that person, and they're like, Jessica, we wanted to pray really quick first, and I'm like, oh, okay, go ahead.
Enjoy. Okay, enjoy your prayer. I'm gonna be sitting here with my meal.
To be thankful for my food if I don't know that it's good. Come on.
Exactly.
Come on.
Why am I saying thank you if I haven't even tested it out yet?
Another useful way to avoid those situations is that football is on TV all day on Christmas.
Oh, there you go.
So if you're at a family gathering in which they have the game on TV, you can be more invested in it than you normally would be.
Right, there you go.
Or wait till they start praying and then just crank up volume really loud. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry I missed the prayer. The game was just really good.
It's an important part of the game.
Zoning in on that commercial for Budweiser. It's really good every year.
Too bad my family's not really a football family.
Yeah, I'm not a football.
Mine wasn't either.
That
TV
is my
was
least...
never on.
Same with my family.
Growing up,
now
it was
the
not.
TV.
That was at my in-laws' house. That was a way that I would
There you go.
avoid stuff.
Yeah, with our family, the TV will be on, but just to like have the music playing through the Apple TV and the sound bar and everything. But yeah, that's.
I'll put on like classic Christmas things on mute on the TV. Like, you know,
Oh yeah,
the
that's a
Grinch
good
or
idea.
whatever. Just like have that as a background thing.
Yeah, I think
Wait.
I usually
Ways to cope.
now I put a fireplace on there with the music.
Okay.
yeah, you along.
'Cause
Yeah, I
we
feel like
don't
my
have
brother
fire.
would do something like that, like put Charlie Brown Christmas on
Oh, that's
real
cute.
quiet. you know?
Yeah, that's
just have something going on the screen.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Good
Yeah.
tips for like what to do when you're trying to cope and strike that
Yes,
balance.
I love
amongst
these
stuff.
ideas. These are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'd mentioned, that I'll just finish with my last little thing, but I was talking about, one of the first things I clinged on to was the story of Jesus, God being in people, right? Like not necessarily Jesus, but applying that to everyone. I think another way that when I was deconstructing my faith, something about the Christmas story that still resonated with me was being the outsider. That the idea that there wasn't place in the inn and sort of the shuffle, sort of the feeling like lost in that season where we all gather together in our homes, but sometimes you feel like you're the one that's there's no place. There's no
man
place
out.
in the inn. Yeah, you are the odd person out. There's no space to fit you in there. There's no room for you. I don't know. That gave me a lot of comfort in the beginning of my deconstruction. That story was a Christmas story I was very familiar with, and feeling like, oh, that's where I am. Like I could locate myself through that exact Christmas story. And so for maybe anyone listening who's also feeling like there's no space for them among evangelical Christmas stuff, maybe that piece of the story can still see you and make you feel seen.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to pray us out?
It's just so great,
I
guys.
just-
It's
Who wants to cuss us
it's
out?
just
I just
really meaningful tonight to have us all here on this
I'm just so fucking grateful that
so
we.
fucking grateful.
with those California raisins. What did they say? Well, they had a certain line that they used.
Did they have a tagline?
I think there was a tagline. I'm gonna Google it and find out
in the
what
Christmas
it was.
special, not necessarily, but yeah,
I loved that Christmas special.
just I'm not interested in praying. I was thinking of saying
good.
something else, and I can't remember what it was now. But
Yeah.
I won't do a callback by doing an Apu impression.
No, no.
Oh Lord.
But I'll say, everybody listening, check out The Silent Partner. Check out True Tone bulbs if you want to get LEDs that look like mid-century incandescents. I just
okay.
changed all my
True
roof lights to
Tone
True Tone
bulbs.
bulbs. Their website alone is so killer. But I went individually screwed in bulbs, like quality lights.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's my recommendation for Christmas decor.
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah, we've got the tacky, the really, low effort, the laser lights that kind of spin around on the side of the house,
Yeah.
and then a big wreath. That's
One of my friends sent me a really great playlist of all just like really naughty songs, Christmas songs.
Oh.
Everything is very raunchy.
Clarence Carter's Backdoor Santa.
I think it might be in there.
Yeah.
It's a whole playlist. I think we should
Nice.
put it in our show notes or something.
Okay, yeah,
Just
yeah.
send it our way.
Send us the link. We'll stick it in the show
We'll
notes.
give people some things to
very
listen
good.
to.
I shared out a link. It's in. I have it up in my Google Drive. My mix for this year. If folks want to download that, I have it for free.
Yeah.
We'll
love
put
it.
those.
Well,
both.
yeah, we'll put them both as well as other links. Zach, your own original Christmas music as well, and we'll toss
Yeah,
all
still
that
got
in there.
copies of the record. It's a little late if you want to listen to it this year. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, I'm looking to add to a vinyl collection. So, do you have it on vinyl? That
Yeah.
would be cool.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, I might hit you up
fun.
for
Yeah,
next year. I'll have it ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I got like 30 copies left or something.
Nice. All right.
That song is not on there. It's just the full length, The Darkest Time of Year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good stuff.
All right.
Well, thank you
Thanks
guys
for hanging out.
Thanks
Yeah.
for being willing to come spend
Absolutely.
Christmas with us and to do our own deconstruction exvangel Christmas celebration.
Yeah.
Talking through surviving Christmas holidays as our faith shifts. And it's one of those things that weighs on people around this time of year. So it's great to be able to have conversations about it.
Yeah. And we'll see you. We'll see you all in the new year.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Celebrate the reason for the trauma. All right. Take care, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Full Mutuality Podcast. We're so glad you decided to join us today.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Spotify, and pretty much every other podcast app. Just search for Full Mutuality on your app of choice or visit our website, fullmutuality.com, for links to all the apps you can subscribe to us on.
And if you enjoyed what you heard, we'd love it if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on our website. A quick review is one of the best ways you can support us.
Speaking of support, you can also partner with us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll be helping us produce this podcast, and you'll get access to other content such as exclusive episodes, access to occasional live stream recording sessions, and more. Just head over to patreon.com/fullmutuality to sign up.
Thank you again for hanging out with us today, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Full Mutuality Podcast.
This is a Dauntless Media Collective podcast. Visit dauntless.fm for more content.